and gentlemen, boys and girls, species of all dimensions, welcome to Geek Syndicate episode 367, where we do what we always do, bring in the sass. Back to geekdom. I am Monts, and with me, as usual, is him.
It's me, Barry, a.k.a. Saxophone Jones. Just came up with that. I quite like that.
Saxophone Jones?
Yeah, I quite like that.
Do you play the saxophone? I think that's
a character, man. You know what I mean?
Did the character play the saxophone?
No, but you know, last week I said I was workshopping ideas for like my new TV show, Nuge.
Yeah.
So I'm workshopping a couple of characters. So I feel like one of the characters would be called Saxophone Jones.
Right.
And he'd run. Hang on, and he'd run like a nightclub called the Sax Lounge.
Right, but he doesn't play the saxophone himself.
No.
Right.
And then there's a whole kind of backstory. Is like everyone says, "So you play the saxophone?" And he'll go, "No." He's like, "So what do you call Saxophone Jones?" He'll go, "That's a story for another day." Whiskey. Yeah. Yeah, you're in, man.
All right. I grudgingly give that one to you, man. It's paining me to do so, but
yeah, I can feel the pain through the headphones, man.
Yeah, okay, man. All right. I'm in. The Sax Lounge?
The Sax Lounge, run by Saxophone Jones, who doesn't play the saxophone.
Do you know what? I'm in all the way, man. I don't know how you turned that around.
Me neither.
I'm actually giving you applause for that.
Thanks, man. Thanks. That was the very definition of wigging it.
Whoa. I can, like, and if it was a comic, I can see the artwork already. Do you know what I mean? Man. Some rich, deep, dark color palette going on. I'm like, yeah.
You do a whole series just called Saxophone Jones and then you just add whatever you need, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm in. Okay. That was one of the most impressive openings to this show ever in its entire history. I have never gone from you are talking nonsense to like, yeah, let's get this made in such a short space of time.
Normally it goes with you like you're talking nonsense, and for the next hour you're still talking nonsense.
Yeah.
Why are you still talking?
Let's move on, man. You just won that.
Yeah, I was going to say some stuff on top of it, and then I thought, you know what? I'm good, man.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah. Roll on, man. You got your shout-outs?
No. I'll talk about it later. All right,
cool.
Yeah. Basically, I wanted to shout out. No, you know what? I want to shout out to Tim. Now, this isn't anything geek related, but I just mentioned it because it's important to me because my daughter was in it. For those of you who are in this country, we got a show called Call the Midwife, which is about midwives. And it's so popular. It's in season 14, which is ridiculous. And my daughter was in episode 3 last week, my 6-year-old, and she was amazing. So I'm buzzing. Now, this week I had an audition and I'm sitting waiting to go in this audition. This dude comes and sits down next to me. He's obviously next in after me. And I looked at him and I went, were you in Call the Midwife last week? And he went, yeah, I was. Obviously expecting me to say, oh, great job. And I was like, oh, you're in the same episode as my daughter. And I thought, what are the odds, man? So we had a nice little chat. So I just want to say shout out to Tim, who probably ain't listening to this, but there we go.
Well, as long as you got it off your chest, man, that's the important thing.
Thank you very much, man.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the, hundreds of listeners that are now like, all right. So I want to give a shout out to old mate Derek Coward.
Oh yeah,
of Comic Book Noise, who has recently become a patron of us.
Derek, this guy's one of our oldest and earliest supporters.
Yeah,
from way back. And I remember him. My funnest memory is this guy who never heard of called Derek going. He's going to review the show, and he goes, "But I warn you." He goes, I don't hold back. Say what I think. I was like, oh no, which way is this going to go? And it was a great review. And it's just always been so much support and love. Thanks, man.
Yeah. My abiding memory of Derek is him telling me how much whiskey burned his throat. The first time he tried some whiskey.
Yeah, it would do that.
Yeah, it would do that, man. You've got to settle in. So yeah, big thanks to Derek for supporting us. And once again, if you want to support what we do, put some shekels in our pocket, as we'd say back in the day. And then you can do if you go to patreon.com.
Yes, that one.
Patreon, yeah, or Ko-fi. And also another thank you to everyone who does support the show, whether it's via Patreon, Ko-fi, or those who email and those who members of the Facebook group who kind of make that what it is. It's great, and it's great at the moment. I think I love our Facebook group because a lot of people are leaving various platforms, and I totally get that. And the social media in general is a little bit of a place of, I don't know, scum and villainy. Is that the word?
Yeah, let's go with that.
So it's nice to have a little corner that I can sort of come to where actually you can actually have a decent, pleasant conversation about geek things without getting into it too much. So that's lovely. How about we roll on to some news?
It's time to roll on to some news.
Rolling.
Yeah.
Keep that news a rolling.
Oh man, you're hitting 6 today, man. As segues go, nicely done.
Thanks, man. Can thank the warm Ribena.
Well, killing that.
Yeah, sorry.
That don't really work for you. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah. So where we at?
News. Okay. So first off, actually, it's news, but it's also a release. So I don't know if you knew this, but like that Big Finish were doing a series based on the V TV show from back in the day.
Yeah. So I got a bit excited there because A, I love Big Finish, and B, V was my go-to back in the day.
I love that show, man.
Which, for those who don't know, was basically a friendly invasion of Earth that people turned up and go, we're the friends, we want to, share our technology and stuff. Basically, suddenly, they were everywhere and they'd taken over. And the story of V followed the rebellion. Rebellion? No, resistance. Sorry.
Resistance, yeah.
Yeah, and it was great. Michael Ironside was in there.
Yeah, the dude from Beastmaster.
Yeah. Oh man, loved that show. And like the aliens were actually lizards, and they used to like every now and again they used to just like grab a mouse or something, just extend their jaw and like eat that thing whole. And it was like the first time it happened, it was like school the next day was buzzing, man.
Yeah, it was a, and I think it came on. I think it was a summer where there were the Olympics, but I think there was a TV strike or something, so ITV didn't have any shows. It was something like that. And that's why they dropped V. I can't. It was something like that. Anyway, yeah. So Big Finish, the first box set, which is called VUK Visitation, comes out this month. It might actually already be out. I think it came out yesterday as we record. And you can pick it up for CD and download. It's for 25 boys, or download is 20 boys. Still steep, man. Still, we need to just come up with that Netflix business, man.
Yeah.
But I listened to the trailer, and I have to say, it was good. It's a good trailer.
Okay. No, Dirk, yeah, I'm buzzing for that, man. Audio dramas are my thing at the moment, man. Yeah,
I haven't gone off the boil with them, but I haven't listened to one in a little while, so I want to sort of pick up on that. So I might pick that up, actually. You got any news?
I have.
Go on then.
So they've created Spidey's web stuff, fluid stuff.
Go on.
So the Spidey
in reality?
Yeah.
What, it actually works?
The web shooting. Yeah. They created it. They were doing something else. They were like working with. It's a company called Science. What are they called? Oh yes, a company called Silk Lab.
Right.
It sounds like some kind of super villain. Like
that sound dodge.
Version. It was like Star Labs, Silk Labs. So they were working on something to do with underwater stuff, and they were what? I've read this article and I don't understand a word. But they were working on something, and they were like, and they literally, and this is a testament to what the position that popular culture has in our lives. They were working on something, and they noticed that this was behaving in a certain way, and they were literally like, and the guy who created it basically went, I was literally like, hey, this could be a Spider-Man kind of thing. So, do you know what I mean? So he goes, now we can now, using it, they can now catch an object. They said, we're not near swinging from buildings type thing. We're nowhere near that yet, nowhere. But he goes, we can now catch an object up to 30 or 35 centimeters away and lift an object of around 15 to 20 grams.
Wow.
So that's, things start small.
Yeah.
But that's where we are. They can shoot out this stuff which solidifies in contact with air, can catch stuff with it and lift objects. Not very far and not very heavy, but that's where it starts. I'm like, which makes you go, what level of genius was Peter Parker working on? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, it's going to take a longer time before you can convince me that you could spray that somewhere and I could literally swing on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, it works now. It works fine. Give it a go. Off the top of a skyscraper. It's like, nah, mate, you're good. I'll take the stairs, man.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to read it, it's on wired.com.
Cool.
And the title of the article is "Science Has Spun Spider-Man's Web Slinging into Reality," which is a catchy title for an article.
Well, I saw something on Instagram. I think I sent you the link. I'm still not convinced it's legit, but it must be, which was like a hoverboard.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. And I was, yeah.
I mean, it looked dangerous as all hell, man, but it also looked cool as. But I just kept thinking, this has got to be, why is no one else talking about this? It can't be legit, surely. He basically was on. He looked like the Green Goblin.
No, exactly. That's what I said to you. That's Green Goblin stuff right there, man. Yeah. This is where it all starts, man. I'm
telling you, man. In the days, man. In the days.
Anyway, let's move on. It's time for the week that was.
No.
It's not time for the week that was.
I had one more quick bit of news, and it's a quick bit, but I think it's an interesting bit of news. Mm-hmm. So, apparently, Star Wars The Acolyte was the second most watched show on Disney Plus last year.
Really?
Mm.
But see, I think this doesn't... Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, which obviously is interesting given the fact that they cancelled it. But according to data shared by Deadline from Luminate's 2024 TV viewership report, The Acolyte was the second most viewed Disney show with a massive 2.7 billion minutes viewed. So
are they saying that it was better than fandom would have you believe?
I don't know. Well, I mean, there's always that's a subjective question, isn't it? I don't think it's about, and to be honest, as far as studios are concerned, I don't think it's about better or not. I think it's just it's about the numbers, which is interesting because you would have thought if you're getting the numbers, then surely you would commission the second season. And I've lost the link now, but I think what they were basically saying was, even though it got those big numbers, they weren't as big as they wanted them to be for it to be worth it. But I think part of it maybe is because, from what I hear, it costs a lot to make.
Right.
I haven't watched it. I'm not a dig against the show, but I don't really see where the money went.
No. Again, I've only watched one episode. But...
Okay. But yeah, there is that argument now. Was it all the blowback against it? Was that the reason why it got Maybe. Canned? And then the figures came out, and it's almost like, oh no.
But I mean, that's the thing, because figures don't mean. I mean, they mean people have. All I mean is people have watched it, because you don't know if something's good or bad unless you've watched it. So figures, do you mean they don't always tell a story?
No, but it's normally the figures, which we know from like when we did the show. But figures drive whether or not things will get commissioned, whether or not they'll get another series and stuff like that. Because basically, if you've got enough eyes on something and it hasn't cost the earth to make, then it's like, well, let's just write out another one. Which is why you do see shows where you're kind of going, why has that got a second season? Or why has that got a third, fourth season? But it's because it's actually getting the viewing and it's not costing them the earth to make it. So yeah, it's interesting because I think Skeleton Crew hasn't done as well, and what a lot of people have said is off the back of The Acolyte. I think a lot of people just tapped out straight away.
They've been burnt by Star Wars. Didn't like the trailer, and yet that's one of the best ones that's come out.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
It is a shame.
Do you think? And then we will get onto it was, and I'm including Marvel in this. Do you think part of the problem is that those universes are just being a bit oversaturated?
Yeah, because I think a new show comes out and you go, "Oh, nice," but that excitement is no longer there because it's like, and I think that's just natural. When you just saturate something, it's even with the best will in the world, the excitement isn't there. It's no longer an event. It's just another thing from Star Wars or Marvel.
Yeah, it's like you've got there's 2 Marvel films out this year, isn't there?
Are there? Was
Yeah,
Captain America?
you've got a new Captain America, and I think you've got Thunderbolts one.
And you know what? I'm gonna watch them both, and I'm quite happy to go and see
Yeah.
them. But I'm not. I don't feel any excitement.
No, I don't. I'm not like I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Whereas stuff like Alien Romulus came out, and I went, right, I've got to see that, and I've got to see it in the cinema because it's been a while since there's been anything aliens. So I was like, yeah, excitement. But yeah, maybe if they populated the aliens universe as much, I'd still be like up for it, but not as excited. I just think that's natural.
Weirdly, I'm quite. Even though it's not been that long since the likes of Man of Steel and whatever, I'm interested is a word to put it in the new Superman, just because it looks vastly different in some ways to Man of Steel, which I really enjoyed. So what James Gunn's take on it's going to be. Now, whether or not the interest pushes me enough to like get my black ass to the cinema, we will see.
Yep. Yep. Ah, interesting. It's time for the week that was.
Okay.
Right. Go first.
So I want to start with 2 comics briefly that I picked up at last year's Thought Bubble. The first is called, in fact, no, I'm going to change it. I want to start with a comic that I picked up at Thought Bubble, which is called Merrick the Sensational Elephant Man. Have you heard of this?
No. I mean,
you're obviously aware of the Elephant Man.
Yeah.
So it's written by Tom Ward, arts by Luke Parker, letters by Micah Myers, and editors Claire Linton. And this is 2 volumes, like collected. And I'd read the first volume quite a few years ago, and I know I've got it banging around somewhere, but I couldn't remember it that well. It's kind of like, what if? How can I put it? So in this one, the Elephant Man's kind of a bit like Hellboy, in that he gets involved in all kinds of like supernatural scrapes and stuff. And the art is very similar to Hellboy.
So initially when you said that, I thought this was like just a retelling of his history.
So let me read the blurb.
All right.
Joseph Merrick is the Elephant Man, the most remarkable human being to draw the breath of life. A haunted pyramid and a cursed deck of cards battles with an ancient Lovecraftian god and encounters with enigmatic Dr. Crow and Spring Hill Jack. The Elephant Man will have to survive them all, but will betrayal from those closest to him and shocking revelations from his own past be what breaks him. So this collects Merrick the Sensational Elephant Man, issues 5 to 8. So I'd read issues 1 to 4, before, and American Crow. And Dr. Crow, he's a little bit, he gave me a bit of like a Lobster Johnson type vibe.
Okay.
Mate, you'd love it. Yeah, if you're hankering for a bit of like a Hellboy type vibe with a British setting and BPRD, and you've rinsed all that stuff, I would go check it out. Definitely. I'd pick up both volumes. I might go back and get the first volume if I can't find it again to reread it. But yeah, really enjoyed it, man.
Okay. All right. Where am I at then? I am going to talk about an audio drama. It's called Wasteland, a Dex Legacy story. Have you heard of Dex Legacy? Okay, well, season 3 of this has just come out. And it's written by Emily Inkpen, who I met at the Arthur C. Clarke Awards in 23, I think. So that's been going for 3 years. Now, Emily asked me to audition for Wasteland, which I did. And I played 2 characters in it. And I'm just trying to work out what I can give away. Basically, I listened to the first episode, which is what's out. You don't have to have listened to the Dex Legacy to listen to it. But I listened to it, and there's a fair amount of setup going on. But once you get past the setup, it's just the acting is superb. I'm not even talking, I only had a small part in that first episode. The acting is superb. So it's set in a world which has been colonized by humans way, way, way in the future. And of all the countries that have evolved there's actually this guy called Dex who's madly rich and a weapons manufacturer, so rich he's got his own island called Dex Island, which I mean says everything right there. And he makes weapons and sells it to the highest bidder, basically. And there's one country that is at war. Well, basically, it's got an island nation that wants independence, and they are looking for a solution to deal with the island called Rhone. Now, in Wasteland, this takes place after the solution has happened, and it involves a squad of mech pilots. So if you know mechs, they're kind of like, call them walking tanks, really. Like they look like robots, but you get in and you drive them, essentially. And it's quite the first episode has got some fantastic acting in, and it takes place there's a bit of setup as it introduces you to the mech pilots and their situation, and then when the actual story hits, when the actual stuff that gets into play that drives the story of Wasteland and why it's just written so well. It's delivered amazingly. I knew the story and I was still sitting there with my heart going and like a lump in my throat. And I know the story beforehand. So I was just like, yeah. Like I said, audio dramas are my thing, and Wasteland Dex Legacy, I think it's bound to be, I would call it political military sci-fi with mechs in it. So yeah, and you don't need to have listened to the Dex Legacy to get the story. It all comes out.
This is Wasteland
episode. Yeah, Wasteland, a Dex Legacy story. Available on all podcast platforms, written by
Again, that's the other thing as well, is that audio dramas now, like, because back in the day, it was kind of like, it was Big Finish. That was pretty much a lot, with the occasional spattering of things like,
yeah, or unless you had your BBC or your Radio 4 stuff.
Now, again, like, there's a load of them on Spotify, as well as Amazon.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, like, and I know that they did a Kickstarter to afford it, because, like, you're getting proper actors in.
Yeah.
It's a podcast drama, but you're getting proper actors in, so you need to pay them, and you need to pay the engineer, and so on. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
It was like, yeah.
Now, I went back and forth about whether or not to talk about this one, but I feel like, because it's new and it's right in our wheelhouse, I feel that and I watched it, I feel I should talk about it. So
I have a feeling I know what's coming.
So I watched Section 31. Oh, did you?
I watched it last night. Yeah, me and Siobhan watched it. I watched it over 2 nights.
So for people who don't know, what is Section 31, Dave?
So for anyone that watched Star Trek Discovery, one of the things that came out was that there's a Section 31 within Starfleet, and they take on the missions that are not above board. The stuff that Starfleet can't be seen to get their hands dirty with. So they send people on deniable missions. And there's a Starfleet captain who dies in Starship Discovery, and her parallel being from the Terran Empire, which is a pretty evil alternative universe, comes over here. And, there's a bit of a redemption arc. And they basically, in the end of it, they ask her to join Section 31. And
now,
that's where this movie
say
starts.
One caveat I would add to it, that actually Section 31 first appeared in Deep Space Nine.
Yes, I heard this.
Was, I would argue, very, very different than this interpretation of Section 31. This was much more, that they were much more sort of covert, much more like, I would say, like the original Mission Impossible TV shows. Like, you didn't even know they were there. Do you know what I mean? Moving behind the scenes type business.
Yeah.
Unlike this version of Section 31, which, yeah. What do you think?
So, unlike just about everybody else in the world, I quite liked it.
I knew you were going to say that, man. I don't know why. I just knew you were going to say that, man. I was in the opposite camp. I think for me, part of it is because I remember Section 31 from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, see, I don't, because I never got through all of Deep Space Nine. Something I've been meaning to go back to for about 100 years, but I haven't done.
I'm just looking him up now. Luther Sloan was kind of the guy who ran it. And if I showed you you'll go and look in my office. But if you saw when you see the guy, you'll know because he's been in plenty of things. William Sadler, that's who
Right.
played him, the actor. Yeah, and
Oh,
it was
yeah,
just
yeah,
they were
yeah,
just
yeah.
great because actually they were so like clandestine and behind the scenes and all the rest of it. Whereas, so my problem is that it was. I just felt like this was made by a committee. It just felt like you're trying to be a bit Marvel. Oh no, this is it. No, I showed Sue the trailer for it because Michelle Yeoh was on Graham Norton when we were watching it, and they showed like the trailer for it, and she was like, bearing in mind Sue doesn't really watch Star Trek, she was like, "Is that supposed to be Star Trek?" And I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "That looks more like a Marvel film." Right, and I was like, and therein lies part of the problem I had with it. And I'm not one of those people that does that kind of this is not insert, properly. That
I
is
was gonna
not
say
what I
that
do.
is
I'm not saying
not.
this is not Star Trek. I'm not saying that. But my problem with it was it felt like someone literally walked into a meeting and was like, I got a great idea to do Section 31. It's basically going to be Guardians of the Galaxy meets Mission Impossible, which on one hand sounds great, but when it just felt like a rehash of Guardians of the Galaxy with a bit of Mission Impossible, and I had no engagement with it. Do you know what I mean? I could, I watched it all. There's a lot of other people that have gone like, I've watched 20 minutes of it and turned it off. I nearly did, but it just did nothing for me. It just left me cold, man. Just, yeah.
Oh well, I enjoyed it. I mean, it didn't. It's not. I would never go. It hasn't left me going. Oh, you've got to watch this show. I don't
If you
think those
told me
words would
that, I
ever
would
come out of
come
my
to your
mouth
house and
about it.
slap the taste out of your mouth.
And I was like, yeah, there's not. But it is in my mind. It was what it was. I
Yeah.
think the problem was it didn't know what it was, and that was and Siobhan and I were talking about it after, going, what was that? Not really sure, but I went with it, and I'm not having it's not Star Trek because it's one of those. It's a huge universe. You can do something completely different. I don't think that worked as an
Yeah.
experiment. I think it was worth doing, and I don't think it worked because I genuinely didn't know what it was. And once I clicked into that, I just took it for what came along. Oh, this is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But I was in my mind. I was like, you know what? If you leaned into it being an 80s pastiche, I'm all for that. And there was a bit of that in there, and I just took it and ran with it.
Right. So putting on my kind of positive hat, right? It's in some, like I said, people stop doing the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Because whenever it wasn't doing that, it was working. Do you get what I mean? There's
And
it's the
what
bit
was
where
it that made it Guardians of
there's
the
all these
Galaxy?
bits where they're just standing around arguing and trying to be all snarky and trying to be all kind of like little one-liners, which just didn't work. Like the dude in the mech suit and stuff like that, out arguing with the other guy. He was the Vulcan, but he wasn't a Vulcan. He was a robot. And I'm just like, no, it's just too much, man.
I
I'm
quite like
sorry.
that.
But when it opened, the opening scene where it was like a kind of bit of Emperor Georgiou's like backstory, I was like, okay, quite like that. I would have rather had that as a film. Do you know what I mean? And also as well, another thing as well, I think with Section 31, and now I am being a bit that guy, but they kind of got involved almost like on a universal scale type thing, where I think part of what they did was they started the war, I think, against the they started the war against the Romulans. They did something to basically bring so they could get the help of the Romulans in the war against the Dominion. And it was quite a big thing what they kind of did. But again, it was kind of behind the scenes and stuff. And because what they were doing was so shady, you can understand why it was that organization that was doing it. But in my mind, like what they were doing in this as their actual mission was to get, go and get this this kind of bioweapon. I'm like, there wasn't. You could have given that to the Enterprise. Do you get what I mean? Oh yes, no.
because it was in the wrong.
Okay,
It was in the wrong
Fair play.
jurisdiction.
No, I put my hand up. No, you're right. It was outside of Federation space, wasn't it? So they had to sort of go in and whatever. So the premise of it, I wasn't against. I was, for me, it was the execution of it just didn't. There was a couple of scenes in there. I was like, actually, that was pretty decent stuff, but a lot of me didn't work. Also, the guy whoever was on the camera needed to be taken out and given a slap, man. It's like, stop zooming in, man. Stop the zooming in, man. Come on.
Yeah. There was bit. Yeah, there was bits where
Too
like
much,
Siobhan looked
man.
away because
The
there's like too
first
much
couple of
movement
times
going on
you
here.
do it for effect and it looks cool. Like someone's walking and you zoom in, zoom out, it looks cool. But after like the 50th time, you're like, if you had to do a thing, it was like, if someone hadn't watched that, I'd say take a drink every time someone zooms. You wouldn't remember your own name after about 20 minutes, man.
And the other thing that Siobhan that really annoyed Siobhan was she goes, "How many more smouldering looks to camera can I get from
Yeah.
like the main guy and from Michelle Yeoh?"
It didn't work. It didn't work for me. But as I said, I didn't. I don't like this isn't Star Wars or this isn't Marvel or this isn't Star Trek. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all subjective. It just it didn't work. It did not work for me. You could have done that, and it could have worked brilliantly, but it just worked for me. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those ones that I'm not arguing hard because I can't. You know? But yeah, no, I enjoyed it for what it was. I would watch more if they've figured out what it was they were doing.
Weirdly, maybe because I think originally this was going to be a TV series. So
Right.
and
I think
it would have worked better, and I think it felt less of a film and more of a pilot. And I feel if I'd watched it as a pilot, I would have been more inclined to sort of stick about, because I would be, well, you know how pilots go, they throw everything at it, see what sticks, and then they take a step back and rework things. Do you know what I mean? But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're talking about movies, I asked you to finish watching Wicked and come back with some positives. And like, we just got to deliver on our promises. I want to know what you got, man.
Section 31 straight into Wicked, man. Can't you give a brother a time to catch his breath? Okay, right. Okay. Positives from the second half of Wicked. Do you know what? The last 20 minutes of that film was quality. I'll give it that. The last 20 minutes and the defying gravity. Yeah. Was great. But I have to say,
a good set piece.
If I'd seen that in the cinema and then it ended with to be continued, I genuinely believe I would have thrown something at the screen and gone like,
I was close,
you had
man.
2 hours. There's a stage show. The stage show ain't even that long, right? Well, I mean, I say that. I don't know how long the stage show is. So, okay.
It's not. No, it's about half. It's about half.
You had 2 hours and 40 minutes, man, and yet you could not. Oh no, I'm supposed to be doing positives, aren't I? Sorry. Okay. Just wind it back, you wind it back. Yeah, as I said, the last 20 minutes I thought was fantastic. The songs, the staging, it's great. Jeff Goldblum in some ways was quite a good casted, I think, for the Wizard in some ways, because he needs to be a little bit out there, so he kind of worked quite well. And the whole look of Oz, I thought was, okay. That's what, now that I can see where you've spent money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I got, man. That's all I got.
Thanks.
20 minutes in a 2 hour, 40-minute film. I said to Sue afterwards, because
I know.
Sue kind of came around a little bit because of the end bit, and there's a couple other bits as well that I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But I said, and she said at the end, that was really good. I said, yeah. I said, but that's 20 minutes in a 2 hour, 40-minute film. That I can't.
Yeah.
I can't allow for that. I can't do it. I'd love to do it, but I can't do that, man. 2 hours, 40 minutes, and you could not take the time to establish that friendship. I'm sorry. To me, it was it was tell, no show. I'm sorry. And she caused it anyway. The situation where she then starts to be nice
Mate,
to her, she caused that situation. No,
leave it. Let's just leave it. It's not worth.
yeah,
It's all right.
I'm
We've done it
done.
privately, man. There's no
Anyone
point
wants to
going
know
over
my
it
real
again.
thoughts, listen to my 6-part show. Wicked, I don't think so. Done by Brad Nugent, coming soon.
Was it Wicked?
My new
Why?
show, Wickedy Wild, coming soon.
Yeah, no, I will agree with your thing. It's a great end 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah,
But thank you for coming back with some positives. I told you you'd find some, didn't I? Yeah. Well, so I was on movies. I got a movie. And this one is interesting because before it came out, all I could see on my timeline, people going, "Oh, this looks like rubbish! Can't believe it! It looks like someone made it in their own home backyard." And I was like, "Why is that a bad thing?"
Yeah.
We're so used to blockbusters now, we don't engage with like the indie films that have a limited budget, and just because of the property doesn't mean that it can't be given. Due care and love with it. So I was like, yeah, sod that, man. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm going to go in with my heart and my eyes open and watch Hellboy, The Crooked Man. So I watched it. Now, I'm a big Mignola-verse fan. So that's Hellboy, Abe Sapien, all of those things. And so I watched it, and I've read the original comic that it's based on. It's based on a couple of comics, actually, and I've read them both. I love them both. So I was looking forward to this. It takes a bit of liberty, so they've put in another woman who's a researcher in the BPRD, and it's her first time out in the field. And do you know what I mean? She's in for a bit of a shock, basically. It is slow. It really, really leans into it's really stripped back because obviously the budget wasn't huge. It's stripped back. It leans into the folklore elements of stuff. So it's backwater southern states, US. Yeah, so you know what we're talking about. The villages in the middle of nowhere with Billy Bob and all of that. And rumors going around and witches and all of that. Probably a little bit long for what it was. But then I've said that about every film in the last 10 years, I think. And I thought it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was true to its folklore, sort of Mignola-esque horror roots. And I think with a much smaller budget than the other Hellboy movies, I thought it did a decent job, personally. And I realized, I haven't heard anyone talk about it. All I heard people going, "Oh, I saw the trailer. It just looks homemade, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well,
I watched the trailer, and a lot of people were slagging off the dude, saying, "Yeah, they don't look like Hellboy." And I was kind of like, "Yeah, but I think we've got caught up with the look of Ron Perlman.
What's his?
He's like a big sort of dude in the big version of Hellboy. Whereas actually in the comics, he's slimmer.
Yeah, Jack Kesey is the guy. Kesey or Kesey, I don't know how you say his name.
But I watched the trailer and I thought. I quite like the look of that, the way they put the trailer together. Then I heard about Giant Spider, and I was like, "Whoa!" So
the spider's at the beginning and the end. There's this spider. It starts with them transporting this spider back to BPRD, and it escapes and grows big, and runs away. And then towards the end, they manage to catch. Then you have the actual story, and then at the end, they catch it again.
Is there any way I can skip bits?
Let me go and have a look at it and see if I can find
I might go to
the
is it called the dog don't die or something like that? Does the dog die? Have you never heard of it?
What's that?
And basically you can go in and you can put in like a particular film or whatever, and it's got different trigger things or whatever. So for me, it's like say spiders or bugs or whatever, and it will say, "Yep, it's got spider in it." And it would tell you at what point.
That's amazing.
Blah blah. I did it with Skull Island, the Kong one, and I knew there was some sort of spider thing in it, and it tells you where. And I remember I was watching it and watching the time. I was like, right, when they let that bit, then just sort of skipped it on a bit, and it would tell you as well whether or not it actually takes anything out of the story.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
boy, some people put work in, man.
So. But what I realised I haven't mentioned on this anyway is before Christmas I picked up Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, the game.
Oh, the game.
Which I proceeded to rinse through Christmas, where there was
I love that terminology,
Sue
man.
was coming down in the
Yeah, I
morning for
rinsed
coffee,
it.
and she was like, "What do you mean? Are you playing that game again?" Yep. So, when this game was first announced, the thing that I immediately got my back up was they said this was going to be a first-person game, and I was like, "First-person Indiana Jones game? I can't see that working. I need to see indie. Do you know what I mean? Don't see it
Yeah.
working." And then they brought a trailer out for it, and I was like, "Okay, a trailer was pretty decent trailer." And then I got the game, and all I can say is, aside from watching the film, that's one of the best Indiana Jones experiences I've ever had. Yeah, nailed it.
Really?
Nailed it once. When I say
That
these
good?
people know the Indiana Jones, they know the Indiana Jones, man. They know the look of it, the feel of it, even
Right.
where the particular sound effects they use. The guy who does Indy's voice, I think his name's Troy Baker. Mate, after about 10 minutes, I was like, that's Harrison Ford. I'm still in my mind, even though the guy's won an award now, I'm like, you're lying. You just got Harrison Ford and you did some kind of back alley deal with him or something. In my mind now, I think, forget the films now, because, Harrison's old. You don't want to do no more. Go and do an animated Indiana Jones film and get that dude to do the voice. Job done. And you know what I mean? Job done. It's job done. It's money in the bank, man.
Yeah.
It was brilliant once. Honestly, the story, I would rate the story. It's difficult to rate in terms of the films as well because they're different mediums. So I'm looking in terms of maybe the pure story. The story of it, I thought, was up there with Raiders and Last Crusade for me.
Okay.
Villains,
This is big
right?
talk, man.
My favorite villain has always been Belloc, and I don't believe no one's really touched him because I think Mola Ram's a very different villain. In you know what I mean? And I never really rated the villain in Last Crusade. As much as I love Last Crusade, I ain't really rate him. This villain, he's up there with Belloc, easily up there with Belloc, man. He's a very Belloc-like
Okay.
character. But yeah, it's the last performance, I think, of Tony Todd, wasn't it? As well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. I can't.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I can't say enough good things about that game. Plus, it was on Game Pass, which meant I didn't have to buy it.
Nice.
But I would have done. You know what I mean? It was. I literally finished it, and then I haven't yet. I literally finished it, then wanted to go back in and play again. The only thing was there's a couple of scenes with some scorpions that I had to kind of half look away and then just button bash. Aside from that, but in some ways it's the Indiana Jones game. I knew there was going to be something like that, but I still went in. You know what I mean? But no, can't recommend it enough, man. When he lick a man in it, it was then proper Indiana Jones punch sound effects, because a lot of it is kind of fisticuffs as well. You know, so there's very little. It's not like you're running and gunning in it. There's a lot of sort of stealth stuff and a lot of using your environment, hitting people with shovels and stuff, like much like Indy was doing, really. But yeah, the scale of it is wonderful, and just the look of it, and the opening, your tutorial, it takes you through the opening scene of Raiders, scene by, when I say scene by scene once. And I remember playing it and thinking, this is the tutorial. That's when I was like, I'm gonna have to carve some time out for this game. You know what I mean? Because they ain't playing, man. They weren't playing. So yeah.
All right. So, because this is new for me. The last time I played a game and actually finished it was way before I had kids. What was it? What was that game? Oh, you played a Deus Ex. Like the first Deus Ex. I don't know when was that? 20
long time ago.
Long time. Yeah, so that's how long it is since I've properly played a game. So, I was in the game Metaphor Refantasio. So I was like, you know what I mean? I've got a fairly big part in it. So I've actually got to play a game for once. And I've got a code for it. So I didn't have to buy it. So I've got it on PS4. Practically got a PS4 so I could play it. And so I started playing. I'm 6.5 hours in, which is the most I've ever been in a game for more than my kids have been alive. And It's really well fleshed out. It's really good. I've got I've so many thoughts about the industry have come from it as well. But I had to do something, and I kind of paused it, and I had it up on the wall because I've got it going through the projector. And my wife walked in and just went, "Oh, that's pretty," because it just looks great. And what's happened is, the great thing is, I was like, my kids are, "Oh, I'm in this, kids. Do you want to watch me play it?" Thinking, of course they don't. They did. Now, my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old come home from school and they go, "Daddy, can we watch you play Metaphor?"
Wow.
I'm like, "What's going on?" So I started playing it with them, and the big bads in it are called humans. And there's some kind of weird, horrible looking human mashup of something or other. And but they're all different. And we were playing this one, and I don't know how we could not beat it. Could not be. And actually my 9-year-old, she plays Zelda. So she's actually got a bit more computer know-how and using the stick than I have. And there's bits where I've go, "Can you do this bit for me? Because I don't know what I'm doing." And she's managed it. And I'm like, how is this bringing us together? And there's this bit where we beat the boss in this level, and the three of us were just like, "Yay!" And then when I turned it off, they were like, "Can we play Metaphor like in real?" And they're like, "It's my turn." Because play a turn, and they're like coming out with their special attacks, and I'm like, this game, number one, this game is great, but it's gone much further than the game itself, and I'm just in love with the game for what it's done to us for us as a family, but also it's a role playing game. Story is paramount here, and I'm involved, man.
Okay.
I'm properly involved. It's deep.
I one day may get looked. My problem with a lot of the RPGs is a long play time.
This is meant to be like 80
Whereas,
hours.
like, I don't know if indie was like 14 or 20. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of where my head's at, is like, which is why a lot of them I don't start, because I'm kind of like, I don't have that. It's not so much, not even just the time. It's kind of like, I'm saying that I'm playing Dragon Age at the moment. I think that's pretty lengthy.
I suppose it's like, you want to go back and watch. I think we were talking about this. You want to go back and watch a series from the old days. It's like 26 episodes, 22 episodes for a season. I don't know if I've got the wherewithal to go back and.
I don't know. It's such a shame, because there's so much stuff I'd like to go back now and watch that I'd appreciate now. But I just the time, innit? And it's constant, and
yeah. No, I get it. Right.
Is that us done?
That is us done. So, you know the score. We'd love to know what you think of what we said, or what you think of the things that you've been watching, or what you want us to give a go to. And is there anyone in the world that didn't mind Section 31? I'd love to know if it's just me. But yeah, you can do that. You can find us on social media as Geek Syndicate everywhere. You can email us at thegeeks@geeksyndicate.co.uk. And you can, if you're in the mood, you fancy supporting our efforts here, there's Patreon, and there's, was it Ko-fi.com, Kofi.com, if you want to just help us pay the bills. So until next time, Geek Syndicate, we out.